So episode 2 of the Sci-Fi Network's brand new Superman universe-based television show Krypton has came and gone. And the real question at this point is, does the show continue to give us the excitement and the intrigue and the suspense that episode 1, the pilot episode, delivered to us last week? I think that Krypton delivers to its fans and the viewers in a very basic way that most television shows that succeed, they have a formula where they reveal a little bit more of the story every single week while giving you a little bit more mystery, something that you want to come back and learn about the next week. And there's also always a little bit of cliffhanging there. A little bit of, hey, there's a new development and maybe you should come back next week to see exactly how that all pans out. So I don't think that Krypton is basing their success on, hey, we're attached to Superman, we're attached to the DC universe, let's just keep suckholing the same Superman fans back in every week. I think that they have incredible value just as a well-written television show. And episode 2, for me, is the proof in the pudding. So a basic rundown of the episode without ruining it for you, we see a few key events here. We see Adam Strange having the gargantuan task of not only convincing Seg that he's telling the truth, because if you remember, we left off in the Fortress of Solitude, we didn't know that he believed or didn't believe, and we find out in the beginning of episode 2 that Seg at this point doesn't believe it yet. He's like, really, honestly, Seg has one thing on his mind, and that is sweet, sweet revenge for the death of his parents. So now Adam Strange has the gargantuan task of convincing him he's telling the truth, and also trying to get him to not commit murder. Oh god, Adam Strange has a big job ahead. So over the course of the episode, we see Seg-El come to believe Adam Strange. We also see Seg-El go back to the fortress after a turn of events back in the city of Kandor, where he has a meeting with Nyssa and she gives him some ashes, the ashes of his mother and father with the House of El sigil on the front, which leads him back down to his old dwelling with his parents, where he sees some people, a mother and a daughter, who his family had positively affected their life. We also see a conversation that he has with his soon-to-be father-in-law that he's also planning on murdering, where he learns that what happened was the House of El, val-el, had a supercomputer that he refused to give over to the Kryptonian Council. He learns that Val tried to tell him, hey, listen, he was my buddy, but he kept talking about this threat out there, this collector of worlds, and we didn't believe him. We wanted the computer. He wouldn't listen, and he kept trying to tell us the truth, and we decided to kill him. He doesn't exactly put it that way, but in a nutshell, that's basically what happens. Back in the fortress, we can see that Seg is clearly conflicted about what he's going to do with this information that he has, and he's not really a murderer, right? I mean, he is one of the good guys. He's just overcome with grief and anger and rage and wants to exact some kind of revenge. Vengeance for the death of his parents. When kind of like over there-ish, he notices underneath the snow that's built up that there's some Kryptonian writing, and there's also the Kryptonian sigil, the glyph of the House of El. Brushes the snow away, and he reads the writing, which causes him to cut his hand open with the shiv he was going to use for the assassination, and he drips the blood onto the writing and onto the sigil, where it lights up, and then the computer that they were talking about, boom, just turns on, and all of a sudden, you have not only a great view of the stars and space and everything that the science, the House of El, everything that val-el would see when he turned on the computer up into space and galaxies and all that kind of stuff, but you also have val-el showing up again in computer form, much like we've seen in the Man of Steel. Mom and Dad are dead. That sucks, but Grandpa's not. Yay! Now Val doesn't waste any time, getting right down to the point of convincing him that Brainiac is real, the Collector of Worlds is going from world to world, and he's sucking up the knowledge and then obliterating the planet, and that most of all, Brainiac is on his way to Krypton. This is a very, very bad thing for Krypton. There's some other stuff that happens with Adam Strange and Seg-El's buddy in the bar, but I don't want to wreck that for you. I do want to leave things for people to watch themselves, so there is that whole thing where Adam Strange is trying to get the information needed to convince Seg that he's telling the truth. I think that's all mostly blown out of the water by the fact that he meets up with his grandpa in the fortress and grandpa just does the job of convincing him. Still, the information that Adam Strange brings to the table is very important, and I'll touch on that right at the end. The other storyline that we follow is one where Lita learns about a plan for the Security Council to go all the way down to the dirty dogs, the unranked, and just seemingly start killing them indiscriminately. It's their attempt to get rid of the Black Zero, and they're like, maybe they're not all Black Zero, but they definitely hide them. So it seems like they're just gonna go down there and just start opening fire, and it's gonna be a bloodbath, and she really has a vested interest in stopping that from happening. The only way for her to do that is to challenge Quex, the current leader of the 4th Squad Sagittarii, to a no mercy to the death duel. That way, she can have his rank, and then her voice can be heard amongst all the other leaders. So there's a really, really brutal battle to the death between Lyta and Quex. And at first, you're kind of like, wow, Quex is definitely winning. He's barely taking any damage. A lot of his blows are connecting, and Lyta just keeps getting hammered. And by the end of the fight, Lyta's face is bloodied. But she's so determined, she does end up defeating him. She busts his elbow, and then just as he cries for mercy, no mercy, she snaps his neck. Yep, she's a Zod. The final large point to the story that is worth mentioning is that after Seg has that conversation, that very enlightening conversation with his grandfather Vex, he goes back to Kandor where he has a nice meeting between his father-in-law Tavi and Nyssa where he tells him, hey, guess what? I'm not going to be taking on your sigil, your seal. I'm not going to be bonding with your daughter. And he cuts off the House of Vex seal, throws it on the floor. Instead, he says, I want you to accept me. I want my sigil back. I want the House of El to be reinstated, and I want to join the Science Council that way. Now, just when it seems they're having none of this, who should pop up in the background but the multi-faced, mask-wearing spokesman for the deity, the new monotheistic, might I add, deity, Reo. Reo basically says, sure, I'm down with it, good idea. Again, in a nutshell, that's not actually what he said. It was more like, this is acceptable. And after Seg leaves, there's another short conversation with Vex, and he's like, hey, you wanted to control him, well, this is how you do it, basically. I'm trying not to completely spoil everything for you so that you can go back and watch it yourself if you haven't seen it yet. So by the end of the episode, we learn that A, Nyssa is not to be trusted because when she gave Seg the urn from the House of El with his parents' ashes in it, that was all just to manipulate him. Lyta has now been appointed commander of the 4th Squadron Sagittarii. Thirdly, and most importantly as far as I'm concerned, we find out that Adam Strange has discovered that Brainiac is not just far away and coming here, but that he's pretty much already here because Adam Strange discovers what is a scout, a little tiny scout that precedes Brainiac before he shows up to a planet to suck all the information out of it, bottle up a city, and destroy the rest. This is a huge deal because things are far more dire than we had ever imagined from the information we were given in episode 1. I think so far Sci-Fi has done a miraculous job of bringing us the world of Krypton in a way that is very different to, say, Gotham or any of the CW shows. It really does feel like it's its own thing. And every episode, to me, feels more like I could watch this and not be a Superman fan, not be a DC fan, and I would still be able to A, follow it, and B, enjoy it. But these are just my thoughts, and I'm just one guy, and I'm sure I missed stuff, and I've only picked certain things to focus on. What did you think of the show, episode 2 of Krypton? Do you think that it carries that momentum forward, or do you think it kind of does a nosedive dead in the sand? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you like this video, please slap a like on it so I know you liked it, and hopefully I'm doing something right. And if you think you might want to see more of my sort of DC-based content show up in your inbox, just hit the subscribe button. Remember to ding the bell, oh so important, because YouTube has just actually literally came out and said they do not give all of your subscribers your videos. They only notify a certain portion. So if you do want to see more of what I put out, you do need to ding the bell. That way at least you get notified and you can decide from there, yay or nay, I do or don't want to watch. And with that, I think I've come to the very end, so thank you so much for watching, and have yourself an awesome day, super friends. Take care.